Emma, and today we're going to be making Confetti Chex Mix. So I'm so excited to make this treat. It's going to be so sweet and tasty. I can't wait to make this treat with you. Once again, welcome back to Fun in the Kitchen, and I'm Emma. So when working with food, the first thing we always do is wash our hands. So we're going to wash our hands with soap and warm water for 20 seconds. And again, the best way to make sure you hit that 20-second mark is to sing happy birthday twice. Water, soap, and scrub. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. And we'll rinse all the soap off our hands. And dry them off. And then we'll move over to our workstation. So, our workstation is set up right here where I have all my ingredients already lined up and ready. So for this recipe, you will need rice Chex squares. The ones I got are gluten-free. So that's another fun thing about this treat. You need rainbow sprinkles, which I have already measured out into the cup. A whole bottle of these equals 1/4 cup. So you'll also need white chocolate baking squares, vanilla, almond extract, powdered sugar, and butter. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this big bowl and measure out our cereal. So I'm only going to be doing half of the recipe today, so feel free to double it to do the full recipe if you would like. So I'm going to measure out 2.5 cups of rice squares. So here's one. Here's two. And here's half. So I've got my rice squares in the bowl, ready to go. Again, I'm halving the recipe, so you can double everything if you would like. So after we have our rice squares in the bowl, we're going to chop our butter into cubes. This will help it melt a little quicker in the pan. So the recipe that I'm using right now, we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of butter. And if you look at the butter, it's already measured out in tablespoons for you. So you just have to find the number of tablespoons you want. So again, we're gonna use 2 tablespoons, so we're gonna cut right here. So I'm just gonna make a little mark of where I wanna cut. I'm gonna take the paper off my butter. And I've still got that little mark where I marked where I want to cut. So I'm just going to cut right there. And so then I've got my cube of butter. So then I can move the rest out of the way, and I'm going to cut this into little chunks. Just into fourths, each piece into fourths. So it's going to look, whoops, my butter's a little soft, which is okay, because then it'll melt. So I cut it into 8 pieces, just like that, into little cubes, just like this. And so after we do our butter, we're going to break our white chocolate bars into little pieces as well. When I went to the store, I was gonna get the same kind, but I got 2 different kinds of white chocolate just because that's what Walmart had. But they are both white chocolate baking squares. In the recipe that I found, it recommended using baking bars instead of chips because they melt better. So it's already pre-sliced, but we're gonna go ahead and break it up into the different little pieces. So that way it will melt better. And I'm gonna use both of these white chocolate baking bars. So we're just gonna break it along the lines into pieces. Just like this. And we're gonna do that for both bars. So that was one bar. Keep all the trash right here together. And this is the second bar. I know they look like they're different sizes. This one is just thick and this one is just long. They're both 4 ounces of white chocolate. So they're the same amount of white chocolate in both bars, even though they are different sizes. So we'll tear this one up. And this one's in bigger squares, so we'll probably break this one a little bit more than that one. So we'll go ahead and break these squares in half as well. So there we go. That way they are closer to the same size as the other bars. We'll just break our white chocolate into halves, into little pieces to help with the melting. So for this recipe, it calls for you to melt the chocolate on the stove top. So that's what we're going to be doing. If you'd rather do it in the microwave, you can. I would just start with doing it in increments of about 20 seconds each time and then stopping and stirring. So that way you make sure that you don't burn any of your chocolate because that's a really bad taste. So now that all of our chocolate is broken up like that, we're going to move, and the butter is underneath it. I just left the butter because it's all gonna go in the saucepan together. We're gonna move over to the stove top with our ingredients to melt down the chocolate and butter. So we will come on over here to do this. All right, so I have my saucepan set up right here, and I'm gonna turn the heat to medium because we want our chocolate to melt, but we don't want it to cook too fast because we don't want it to actually cook and burn. So we're going to take our butter and our white chocolate and put it all in the saucepan together. And then we're also going to put in 1/8 of vanilla, 1/8 of a teaspoon of vanilla. And I know this is not a very common measuring for baking, so just do 1/2 of a 1/4 of a teaspoon if you don't have 1/8 of a teaspoon measurer. And then 1/8 of a teaspoon of almond extract. And we'll just dump that right into our saucepan with our chocolate and our butter. And so we'll just keep stirring, waiting for it to start melting. And some of the chocolate is already starting to melt. If you can see that in the pan where it's melting a little bit. And we'll just keep it stirring to keep it all melting and to keep anything from sticking to the pan. Children, stoves can be very hot, so be sure to make sure your parents help you out with this part. So we'll just keep stirring until all our chocolate is nice and melted. Also, make sure you use a non-stick pan for easier cleanup, so that way you aren't trying to scrub hardened melted chocolate off your pans or ruining your pans. So we'll let that keep melting a little bit, and I'm going to give it a break for just a second. And while that's melting, I'm going to grab my chocolate wrappers and go ahead and throw them in the trash. Take my chocolate wrappers and throw them away. That way we can have a little bit cleaner of a workstation. We'll just keep mixing this chocolate. It's still a little thick. Right now, it kind of looks like a paste, almost kind of doughy. We want it to be just a little bit more liquidy. So I'm actually going to add just a little bit more butter to it to make it a little thinner. Butter is what helps the white chocolate thin out. So I'm going to go ahead and add about half a tablespoon of butter in there. And this will just, like I said, help the mixture thin out. Okay. And once that butter is melted in there and your chocolate is nice and melted, we're going to move it straight over to our Chex Mix that's in the bowl and dump it in there. So I'm gonna move you guys over there first so you can watch me dump it in. All right, here's our bowl of Chex Mix right here. And we'll take our white chocolate mixture that's in our saucepan and we'll just dump it straight onto our white chocolate and give it a good mix. I'm gonna go set this back on the stove. Make sure you always turn your stove off. And then just mix, mix, mix until all your Chex Mix is nice and coated with the white chocolate. I'm using a spatula, a rubber spatula to mix. You can also use a wooden spoon if you'd like. So you just want to mix it all up until all of your Chex Mix is good and coated with that white chocolate and butter mixture. This is what's going to help the sprinkles and the powdered sugar stick. Whoops, I'm tossing out cereal. So, once all of your cereal is nice and coated from the mixture, mine's almost there. I just want to make sure every piece has enough white chocolate on it. Okay. And so then we'll knock these pieces back into the bowl. There we go. And it is still a little warm, so be careful. But after you have it all mixed up and all of it's coated evenly, it'll look like this and it'll all be sticking together a little bit. That's okay. It's just the white chocolate sticking together. So we are going to take our powdered sugar. Actually, we're going to start with our sprinkles. We're going to use 1/4 cup of sprinkles, which, like I said, I just have these rainbow nonpareils, and it equals just about right at 1/4 cup. So we're going to take those and we're going to just stomp them all in, just like that, all on top of our Chex Mix. And so after that, we'll put the top on. And this is the fun part. You can just mix if you want, but this is going to be a lot easier than trying to mix it all up. So you put the top on and you shake. You don't want to shake too hard because you don't want to break the cereal. But you want to shake enough that you get all the sprinkles mixed in and coating your white chocolate cereal. So I'm doing it in like a little circular motion just to kind of make it all bounce around in there and kind of shuffle around. So if you don't have a big plastic container to do it in like this, you can also do it in a big plastic bag if you'd like. Or, like I said, you can also just mix it. So I think mine looks pretty nice and coated. There's some stuck to the bottom down there, so I am going to take my spatula and mix it again with just the spatula, just to make sure that everything is evenly distributed in there. Because you don't want some pieces with a ton of chocolate and sprinkles and some with none. You want to make sure everything has the same amount. So then, after you make sure it's all mixed up, here's how mine looks so far. You can see all the sprinkles on there, and you see some of these chunks. You can break those up with your fingers if you'd like. Just be careful. Like I said, the white chocolate mixture is still a little warm. We don't want anyone to burn themselves. So once that's all how you like it, then we're gonna add in our powdered sugar. So I'm gonna take half a cup of powdered sugar. So here is the powdered sugar, confectioner sugar, powdered sugar. And we're gonna measure out half a cup. Whoa, there's a big chunk. Okay, so if you have a big chunk of your powdered sugar just like that, you can just break it with your fingers, just like this. So after that, you'll get powdered sugar on your fingers, and we'll go rinse that off in just a sec. But you'll take your powdered sugar and dump it straight into your mixture. And then just like with the sprinkles, I'm gonna put the top on and I'm gonna shake. Again, you can use your spatula to mix if you'd like. I just choose to shake. Shake, shake, shake until all the powdered sugar is mixed and coating our cereal. And once it's all mixed up, we'll take the top off and take a look. Doesn't that look delicious? So the last step of this is to have a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. I went ahead and did that. And then you're just gonna dump your mixture out onto the baking sheet and spread it out into a little even layer. And let it cool. You can eat it warm if you'd like, but it's best to let it cool. That way you don't risk burning your mouth or your fingers. So here's a little piece. I'm gonna go ahead and try it. It's a good sweet treat. And so the good thing about this treat is that when using the rice squares and the nonpareils, this is a gluten-free treat, which makes it really nice to have a fun, sweet treat. So in the bottom of my bowl, there's just a little bit of chunks of white chocolate sprinkles left in there. So I'm going in with my spatula and I'm gonna scrape them out the bottom and add them in with my cereal mix. So then after that, you just let it cool off. Once everything is nice and cool, you can put it in a Tupperware container or a Ziploc bag to store it. Just leave it on your counter. It doesn't have to be refrigerated or anything. Just don't let it get warm, otherwise your chocolate will melt again and it'll all stick together. But that's really it. So then for cleanup, you just make sure that you throw all your trash away that you need to. So you throw your chocolate trash away. If you use all of your sprinkles like I do, make sure you throw that container away. Make sure you wrap your butter back up and put it back in the fridge. That way it can be used again in the future. Make sure you put your tops back on everything. You will have powdered sugar everywhere, so when wiping up powdered sugar, one of the best ways to clean that up is to use a damp paper towel and just brush it into your hands. Close up your cereal boxes if you didn't use it all, and put all of your dirty dishes into the sink to be washed. Make sure when you go to wash your pan that you allow it to cool nice and thoroughly before you grab it with your hands, so that way you don't burn your fingers or ask your parents for help with that part. Again, use a nonstick pan so that way your chocolate doesn't stick to the pan. Mine has been sitting over here for a couple minutes and you can see the chocolate just rubs right off because it's a non-stick pan. So that makes it nice and easy for cleanup. Um, Once again, this was Fun in the Kitchen with Emma. We made Funfetti Chex Mix. I hope you try it and I hope you enjoy.